Welcome to Engage in Trade, Tales from the Field, Exporter Success Stories. My name is Susan Spitz, and I am the International Business Development Manager here at the World Trade Center. Thanks for joining us today. We're really excited about what we've got for you today. And since the holidays are kind of getting into swing here, we wanted to bring some stories to you. These stories are meant to do more than entertain you, however. Hopefully they will inspire you to go further in your own exporting journey, knowing that while selling internationally is definitely more complex than selling within the US, it's well worth the effort for most companies. And there are so many free resources and support for you to do that. So just a few housekeeping rules to let you know about. All participants will be muted for the duration of the presentation. However, if you do wish to ask questions, please do so. We welcome questions using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And let's see. And then, I also wanted to let you know, so we will have some time for Q&A at the end of the panel discussion. But we will also, after the recording is completed, this is being recorded. The presentation will be available a few days after the webinar is completed, and we will also include a listing of a lot of the resources that are going to be mentioned by the panel today. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce to you Stella Sheehan, the Deputy Director of World Trade Center St. Louis, and my boss. Stella has been with the World Trade Center for over 18 years, and she leads the trade team consisting of myself and Annie Mbale, who is our webmaster today. She also heads up our Chancellor's Certificate in International Trade, which is our online export training. She oversees St. Louis's 16 sister cities and is the executive producer of our signature event, Growing Global. Stella was born and raised in Ireland, and she has lived, worked, and studied extensively in international markets, including Belgium, France, Italy, and the UK. Stella holds a BA in French and Italian from the National University of Ireland, Galway, and an MA in Applied Languages for Business from the University of Ulster at Coleraine in Northern Ireland. She's a graduate of Leadership St. Louis and was appointed to the Missouri District Export Council, or better known as MODEC, which we will mention a couple of times today. She's a member of that Missouri District Export Council as of January of last year. And I always say she's the wind beneath the wings of our executive director, Tim Nowak, who's unable to be with us today. So Stella will give you all a brief overview of World Trade Center's St. Louis work and introduce our panel to all of you today. So Stella, off to you.
Thank you so much, Susan, for that very gracious introduction. And thanks to all of you for joining us this morning for this exciting event. As Susan mentioned, I lead the trade side of the house. And we like to say here at the World Trade Center that we have three main pillars: people, trade, and investment. Three key equal ingredients which go to make up a global city. The people side of the house consists of our 16 sister cities, as Susan alluded to, and perhaps our most well-known initiative, or I should probably say our best-known initiative, is indeed the Mosaic Project, headed up by my colleague Betsy Cohen, and that is an initiative to attract foreign-born to the region and assist them once they are here by way of networking and referrals and programming. The trade side provides companies with the tools they need to trade internationally. So we do that by way of counseling, referrals to our federal and state partners, which we work very closely with, and organizing educational events like the one you're attending today. Last, but certainly not least, our foreign direct investment, or FDI pillar, is led by my colleague Sean Mullins, and they assist companies around the globe who may be interested in setting up their North American base here in the St. Louis region, while simultaneously assisting foreign companies who've already chosen St. Louis and wish to expand and continue to invest here. With that, I know Susan has assembled a terrific panel for you all this morning, and so without further ado, let's get right into the introductions. Torstein Holt is originally from Norway and earned his master's degree in 1984 from the Norwegian University of Science and Technology in Trondheim. He did his military service as a diver in the Royal Norwegian Navy. Torstein founded Holtec Gas Systems on December 21st, 1999. By focusing on research and development, Holtec has developed the most efficient and economical nitrogen generators on the market, with the result being products that consistently win customer praise for both performance and reliability. Exporting has been an important part of Holtec's business from the very beginning and has at times accounted for more than 50% of their revenue. They've received several export awards, including the prestigious President's E certificate for exports in 2022. Ingersoll Rand became aware of Holtec's durable, high-efficiency nitrogen generators, and Holtec agreed to private label nitrogen generators for them. They liked the products and excellent customer service so much that they acquired Holtec on September 1st of 2022. Torstein stayed on as the Director of Business Development, and the goal is to keep growing the company to become the largest nitrogen generator manufacturer in the world. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that I have the privilege of serving on the Missouri District Export Council with Torstein, as well as with indeed our next panelist, Dave Sjogren, and I can tell you that we all benefit from their collective expertise. Dave is the president of US International Foods and has over 25 years experience in the food industry. As having pioneered the China market for his then employer Resource One and cultivating several customers in Asia, building a platform for exports, Dave and his wife Linda purchased the export business from Resource One and established US International Foods as a standalone company in September of 2014. During Dave's long tenure in the grocery industry, he has developed a strong base of contacts with US grocery suppliers. His extensive financial, marketing, and operational experience provides US International Foods with the ability to analyze and develop innovative sales and marketing programs, both from a practical and economic perspective. Additionally, his background in private label manufacturing gives Dave a strong foundation and common ground with grocery suppliers and manufacturers. Throughout his career, he has been active in professional organizations and his local community, serving on the boards of various not-for-profit organizations and academic institutions. He currently serves on the board of trustees for Ripon College and as an advisory board member of the Harris House Foundation. In January 2014, Dave was appointed by the US Secretary of Commerce to serve in the Missouri District Export Council, and in 2013 was named Global Pioneer of the Year by the St. Louis Regional International Partnership. In that same year, the company also received Agricultural Exporter of the Year from the Missouri Department of Agriculture. Dave attended Ripon College, where he received his BA and went on to receive his MBA from the Olin Business School at Washington University in St. Louis. And finally, Karen Soroka. Karen Tinsley Soroka is the founder and creative executive of My Scratch Offs, a woman and veteran-owned company. She served in the Air Force from 1995 to 2001, where she worked as an aeromedical evacuation technician. After the Air Force, Karen chose to return to school full-time and stay home to raise her two young daughters. She launched My Scratch Offs in 2008 in her living room and saw a need to bring to the greater market these little-known scratch-off products. In 15 years, she and her staff have built a physical and online presence that is rivaled by few. She is now in the process of designing packaging for their most popular scratch-off products for the retail shelf in the US and Canada. Karen lives in Belleville, Illinois with her daughters and dog Bella. She enjoys spending time with her family, graphic design, reading, drinking wine, outdoor activities, and spending time with family and friends, and most of all, traveling. And thank you all so much to our panelists. We can't wait to hear your tales from the field. So Susan, back to you.
Thank you very much, Stella. And let me get my questions up on the screen here. And thank you. Yes, as Stella said, thank you very much. I'm very excited about this panel because we've got really a good diversity on a number of fronts. We've got veterans, we've got women, we've got business owners that are in industry and in food and in retail. So it should be a little bit of something for everybody. And all of you are somewhat stars in this area right now because of the work that you've done, and especially because of, at least for Torstein and Dave being on the Missouri District Export Council. For those of you who don't know that organization, it consists of people like ourselves that are resource providers generally, but also business owners who've got that direct experience. So I appreciate the time that you've given to help others with international sales, which is, I should start and just make sure everybody knows that exports, when we say exports, we're talking about selling internationally. So I think I'll go in reverse order from the way you all were introduced. So I'll start with you, Karen. And first of all, just explain a little bit about sort of how you got started in that business. And I know I would be able to describe it, but you have probably a way of describing, for those who don't know it, what actually is a scratch off.
The scratch off company, My Scratch Offs, we started in 2008. I, at that point in time, was doing some other, selling some products on eBay and that kind of stuff. And I came across that this scratch off exists in a sticker form, meaning that it's a blank sticker that you can create your own scratcher, your own scratch off on the fly. So I kind of, was looking at this a little deeper and realized that nobody was selling this in a small retail market for like small and medium-sized businesses or moms and teachers. Nobody was doing this. So just kind of did the market analysis and started investing into the product and started to grow the product line in general organically by what people requested of me and what people wanted. And just kind of, grew it organically, just like that. So yeah.
So scratch off like on the lottery, that kind of thing. You scratch something off and then you get something underneath. Is that correct?
Yes. So
Okay.
we do them for business promotions. We do them for baby showers, for gender reveals, for birthday parties, teacher rewards within the classroom, churches, nursing care facilities use them for entertainment for their different holiday events. So it can be used for so many different things. And that's what we've capitalized on. That's what we make it all fun.
Yeah, that it sounds like a lot of fun. And so the exporting side of it, how did you get into that?
That was absolutely accidental. For us, because we've been e-commerce the majority of the time that we've been around. As you said earlier, we are in the retail expansion mode right now. But we've been e-commerce, it can be global. And we started getting people that were reaching out to us saying, hey, can you send this to Norway, to the UK, to Australia, to Canada, to other countries within Europe? And all we had to do is just research some things. How do we do this? Yes, of course, we need a harmonized tariff code. We need to figure that out for all of our different types of products. On top of that, we needed to figure out some of the shipping. Which shipping methods did we want to use? Because this is all small package type things. And, sometimes we were sending larger packages, but never a full pallet or anything like that. So we had to figure out which shipping platforms are we going to use. And you had customs things you had to figure out. Is the customer prepaying that customs? Are we paying it? Like, how do we just needed to figure some of that out. So once we figured that out, it was pretty simple and pretty easy.
Funny that you use the word accidental, because there is a term of art within the trade industry that's called the accidental exporter. When we give presentations, we often mention that. So would you say that applies to you then?
Oh,
Sort of
absolutely. Yes.
got customers by accident. So that's one way.
Yep.
I mean, it's a very frequent thing that happens. In fact, if you've got your settings set up in a certain way on your website, you could get a paid customer before you even know it, right, from another country. So,
Yes.
okay, interesting. Thank you. Dave, let's go to you next. We did hear a little bit about your background and how you kind of came to own this business. But the international side of things, tell us how that came about.
Yeah, so I
Follow.
started this. I started doing export as a project at my old company, Resource One, and I kind of felt like I had found my calling. And so when they wanted to exit, I wanted to stay in it. My wife and I made a friendly deal with my old boss to buy the export company. And one thing that's a little different about us compared to other companies is our mission is export. We're not 100% export, but that's really what we focus on. We're built around exporting. we're not a domestic company that does some export, um, opportunistically. We're built to export.
And did you have international experience? Like, what made you feel like you could do it?
But I like to travel. So, no, I didn't have any international experience, but I did have a lot of experience in the grocery industry. So, um, so my route to this is sort of as a subject matter expert first and an exporter second. And so, I like to tell people that international business is about 90% business and about 10% international. And the 5 or 10% international things are, logistics and documents and some financing things. And, those are things you can learn how to do if you're an expert at
Absolutely.
your core business.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's a really good way to do it. It reminds me of, I think it was Procter and Gamble. I heard years ago that they wanted to um, hire people that had character and work ethic and that kind of thing, because that was hard to teach, but the other stuff they could teach. So yeah, that's what sounds like you're saying. You're the subject matter expert, and you've got that knowledge, that depth of knowledge, and then you can just apply that and learn the international pieces of that. Great.
Yep.
That's very bold. I like it. And Torstein, now you are obviously a different situation too, because you started in another country. So tell us how your export journey came about.
Yeah, I started doing my master thesis of membrane separation of gases in Norway, and was relocated to the US in '89. I worked for a gas generator manufacturer, and then eventually a second nitrogen generator manufacturer. And what they both had in common is they were deeply into export all around the world. Export was sort of in my genes and became very natural. I was used to travel all around the world and commissioning systems in Egypt or wherever the planes took me. And after I started my own company, I started working with a company in the United Kingdom. They had designed nitrogen generators for them, and they paid me for my services, and I sold them parts as well. So in addition to having this one foreign customer, I made my own website. I went to CompUSA, bought a software to make my own website, and it was actually free after mailing, right? So it gave me a free ride to the world, and then years after, with millions of dollars worth of business, and also with customers in 34 countries so far. And export has in some years been more than 50% of our business. So it's a very important part of what we do. So if you want to start your own business or export business or grow it, having a good website, that's key to success. So that's one takeaway you should write down there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that website really paid off, huh?
For sure.
Free website builder. That's great.
Yeah.
And 34 countries. That's amazing.
Yeah. And this didn't start in my living room. It started in my basement, but
Okay.
part of the house.
Okay, so thank you, everybody. Well, let's move on to another question. We know that exporting can be definitely tougher to navigate, although businesses, every business confronts challenges every day, right? Even with they're just sticking to domestic sales. But I thought it would be maybe helpful for people to hear from you all about a challenge or struggle that you may have faced regarding international trade, and hopefully how it was resolved. Dave, I think I'll start with you if you want to weigh in on that one.
So challenges.
Yep.
So, every year it's the business is different, and every year it seems like we've got a new challenge. And so I remember very clearly our first year in business, as a standalone in 2014. Like a month after we, opened our office, the West Coast port workers went on strike, and we had orders to China that were stranded at the port, and weren't gonna move, and that was quite stressful. But
Were they perishable or not?
uh, everything in food is perishable. So, everything's got a shelf life, and in China especially, the customers don't want it. They'll refuse it after the shelf life gets to like 50%. But we work with our forwarders, communicated with our customers, and after many tries, we were able to get the container out of the port and break it open and like airship some of the product and liquidate the rest of it. But so so there's always challenges, and there's always solutions if you keep working at it. Other things we've had happen, like this year, for example, the U.S. the Fed has been raising interest rates to slow down inflation.
Mhm.
That makes the dollar stronger in the foreign exchange markets. That makes our products more expensive relative to other products that are out there. So in some of the markets we sell to, it's like we've had a 10% price increase. So that's affected our demand a little bit. But luckily, like the customers that buy from us, they want American brands. So even though the exchange rate affected us a little bit, relative to other American brands, we're all in the same boat. So,
Right.
if they want American brands, they're facing this with all their American suppliers. So, um, so that was interesting. Other challenges we've had are in markets where the regulations around food ingredients or the customer perceptions around things like genetically modified organisms, ingredients in food, like
GMO.
corn or wheat, GMOs. Sometimes we have to do some education of the customers or provide documents. Or one year in China, 2017, the market sort of turned away from GMO ingredients. So we took a knock because of that. We had to stop shipping some of the products, but we keep going. The world's a big place, and there's lots of markets, and sometimes when you hit a roadblock in one market, you can pivot and focus on a different market.
Great. Well, thank you. Very interesting. And yeah, I guess that's the right approach, right? Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And it sounds like you are working with the experts, the freight forwarding companies that that's their whole business, and they know how to help with that. So good information. Yeah.
One of the advantages we have is we're a trading company. We buy and sell lots of different products. We don't really own a brand. We're not selling one brand.
Yep.
So we always have more things in our bag to sell if we get we hit a roadblock with one certain brand or product, we can move to the next thing.
Right. Yeah, that's a good position to be in. Yeah, shift things around. Great. All right. I think, Karen, I'll ask you next. What's the challenge that you have faced internationally?
As Dave just mentioned, price, not only the price of the product itself, but the price of the shipping the product to the clients. And a lot of our products are fairly lower priced items. And sometimes these clients who wanted this product, because they can't get them in their own country, they wanted this product from the US, they had to pay more for the shipping than they were for the product. So
Wow.
that was one, but it's just how it is. Like there's nothing I can change about that. There's nothing that they can change about that. The other one was we were signed up for a trade mission to Mexico. And I met with multiple people in Mexico, the different business consultants that do the matchmaking service and all that kind of service. And
you met
we
with
found
them virtually, right?
Met with them
You're
virtually, yes. And this is all right during the pandemic, to the tail end of the pandemic. And the more research that I did, and I had some help from SIUE with doing some other research about the product within Mexico. And There was just a challenge in the translation of our products within the markets in Mexico and even in South America, where they just didn't translate. The South Americans and the Mexicans, they just don't enjoy the scratch offs like us in America and in Canada do. So that was really a challenge. And I do have a website that is a .mx website extension. It just doesn't perform as well, and we know that that's the reason why. So now there's some other things that we're trying to do. We're gonna the translation of the website. I think we need to play with some of that a little bit, and then really do some advertising in the market, which is something we haven't done yet. So more on that to be determined.
Okay. So what you're saying is sort of it's a cultural thing that doesn't exist then in Mexico, or doesn't exist as
Yes.
much, right?
Absolutely. Yep. It
So-
just not widely as known as it is in America and Canada.
And that's interesting because just the whole concept of market entry, you know, I think it was Dave who said there's a lot of countries out there, right? There's over 200 countries. If a company is first looking to begin exporting, you know, where do you start, right? And there are resources for that too. And we're going to get to the resources in a little bit. But that's one of the decision points, right? Is trying to figure out what is the best market. And for an example, like what you just described, it sounds like Canada is a good one. I mean, Canada is a good one for most companies anyway, because they're so similar culturally. We don't have to cross the ocean. The same language, that kind of thing. But then if there are cultural barriers to whatever you're selling, then that's going to be something that you would find out in your market research, or it sounds like that's what you've done. So that's a
Yes.
really good example for those that are just thinking about getting into exporting. So, and
Yep.
then maybe you can do some fun things that, you know, get sort of drum up that market, right, for yourself.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. And the translation of the product itself, because that's another challenge, because the product itself has been in English, or we started creating products that don't have language on them at all. So that, you know, it's just the design that you're trying to get out there, but you still have the packaging, and the packaging might have translation requirements, you know, within that country itself. So that's something to be aware of as well.
Yeah. And especially a language like Spanish, where it varies so much from country to country too. So,
yes.
Okay. All right. Well, to be continued, I guess. Good luck with working through that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Torstein, what are some challenges you've faced? I remember I think there was a time you called the World Trade Center because you had something stuck in another country, but I don't know if that was what you were going to talk about.
Yeah, that was about temporary importation ban and all that. I think I'll come to that in a minute. I just wanted to mention that Karen and Dave, they had some shipping problems with difficulty shipping, and also with the cost going way up. We import a key product from Japan in 40-foot containers, and getting it to Los Angeles port, getting it stuck in the port and all, that was a big problem. And what you normally paid $5,000 for, maybe it was $35,000 to get a container over. So that was difficult. But that's the import side of it. Once we receive an export order for a nitrogen generator and we build it, we have to ship it. Getting it, the required shipping documents together, and getting a shipping company lined up can be a challenge.
How big would you say, how big, to give people an idea of what a nitrogen generator looks like? Like how big is it?
It can be smaller than your refrigerator, and it can be maybe 20 feet tall. So 10 by 8 by 20, so it could be quite significant. So in shipping those, that you have to lay it down, a very special shipping arrangement you have to do, and packaging and all that. Once that's on getting the paperwork done, having all the right papers, that can be a big challenge. But now we have so far found a solution every time, but it takes time, and it takes a lot of hours many times to get it done. And then maybe Dave has experience in something similar, maybe Karen too. But we have recently learned how to import a component without paying taxes when we're going to export it again. So if that's any of you that's listening in here, if you're in the same situation, you can file a temporary. In our case, we saved more than $20,000, so it's worth looking into. But you were asking about challenges with exporting and all, and just when you sell to other companies, the product we manufacture and sell requires after-sales service. So having a local support available has been very important for our success, to have distributors trained locally to provide the service. So if you're considering to start or increase your export business, setting up local partners and distributors, that's key to success. That's worth working on, and I'm sure there are a few organizations that can help you with that, and that's actually something we're going to answer in the next session here. So that's all I have for now.
Thank you. Yes, that's another question you've got to ask when you're getting ready to export, right? What are the shoot, I just lost what was the last point you made? I've got all of the points in my head. The
local distributors and
that's right. Thank you. Like when you're trying to decide how to enter a market, do you want to sell directly? Do you want to go through a distributor? And the distribution process is usually a very good way to go, because those are companies that are based in that country. They know the language and the culture and have connections already in a lot of cases. So that is a service that can be provided by some of the resources, which we're going to get to in just a minute. But I think the main message that you all have already mentioned is that you don't have to go it alone, right? There's a lot of different issues and questions that come up, but there's a lot of resources and support that can help you with that. So one that you mentioned, and Annie, I don't know if you can find it on the list of links and put it in the chat, but you mentioned a temporary importation bond. Is that right? Is that what it was?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
And that would help you when you're importing a product and it's going to ultimately be exported.
Right.
Correct? Okay.
Yeah, then you don't pay any taxes on it, but just a small fee for the bond.
Or tariffs or anything, yeah.
But if you don't export it within 1 year, you have to pay it plus a huge penalty. So you better get it out within 1 year.
Yeah, I think tracking and being really organized about what you're doing is going to be really important as part of exporting as well. Wouldn't you agree? So there are a couple of other ways that you can avoid duties on something that you import if you're going to export it again, but we'll save that for another time. But that's a good resource to make available. And if our webmaster isn't able to find that one, because there's a very large list of resources that we're going to include, we will be sending it out at the end of the webinar. So, okay, so thanks everybody for that. So let's go on to the next question, and we may be the last sort of official question before we get to the Q&A section. But here at the World Trade Center, we really aim to help businesses get access to these resources and to the support that they need to be successful, the way you all are, right? So this is what I'd like to hear from you: is what resources specifically have you taken advantage of in the process of growing your international business? So let's go back in reverse order. I guess Torstein, I'll put it back to you. Torstein.
Yeah. So now we work closely with the Missouri Department of Economic Development, and we learned about them through the World Trade Center, actually. And after that, I participated in 3 trade missions with the governor of Missouri, and also I participated in a trade mission with the World Trade Center in St. Louis. So both of these organizations are great resources to help you grow your international business. So that's should be your first stop. Should be those 2 organizations, in my opinion. And also, if you go on trade missions, you can get 50% of the international trade show expenses paid. Or airfare, hotel brochure, translations, international website development, and all of those, you can get 50% back by using Missouri Step Up or GMAP, and that's being handled by Missouri Department of Economic Development. So if you're a small business as a phenomenal resource you should take advantage of. Of course, 50% of your product has to be made in the US, where I believe there are some restrictions that, but if you qualify,
Yeah,
it's
there's some restrictions.
good program.
Yes,
And,
thank you.
And
So
also,
let me
US
just reiterate those, so that, because she's putting some things in the chat. So what Torstein has just mentioned is the Missouri Department of Economic Development. They have an international office. Actually, they've got 15 international offices around the globe, which is pretty amazing.
Even in
Boots
Singapore.
on the ground. Yep, even Singapore. And they also administer some grants that are SBA funds from the Small Business Association. So every state has them, right, Karen? Even in Illinois, there are STEP grants. It's an acronym. And these grants are available to expand into new international markets. So there's information on their website about that. And then you also can speak with their local representatives to get more information about those grants. So the Missouri Department of Economic Development. And then you mentioned going on trade missions with the state of Missouri, because they also run trade missions, and then World Trade Center runs trade missions. And I know you went on our trade mission to Mexico. And then I think Annie's also got in here, let me just take a look at what else she has put in here at this point. Why don't you go ahead, Torstein? I think you're going to mention the other ones next. So.
Okay. So U.S. Commercial Service, they have some great resources too that can help you connect you with partners and find new markets for you around the world. So it's worth reaching out to them. And Dave and I, we are part of Missouri District Export Council. Reach out to us as well. We can help you connect you with or figure out how to help you with your export. So that's something we'll be happy to do.
Yep.
And if you sell high dollar products, you can get them financed through Exim Bank. So that could really help you. You sell more, particularly to Mexico, but also to a lot of other countries. That's something we have looked into, and but we haven't had a chance to use it yet. But that's really something worth looking into. So yeah, there are lots of resources available. So just reach out to them, and that way you can grow it or start your export, and we'll be happy to help you.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, so the Export-Import Bank can guarantee the payments basically up to 90%. And the SBA Small Business Administration has an international office as well, and I think those links are up there. And then, as you mentioned, the U.S. Commercial Service, they have local representatives here in the St. Louis region, and they work on both sides of the river in Southern Illinois. So Missouri has 15 offices. The U.S. Commercial Service works with most of the embassies around the world. So they've got over 100 offices. So those are very good resources. And Dave, I see that you had put in the chat. Oh, I guess that's a chat for, I don't know if that chat is for all of us or for the participants, but you mentioned on translation. There are several translation services as well. And you mentioned the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So that's a good one. So
one more thing about SBA. In 2020, we bought a large building, and that we got financed through SBA partially, and that helped us grow our business more than double our revenue from 2020 to 2021. So SBA can help you in many ways. So it's worth looking into.
That's a very good point. They have a lot of domestic resources too. And our parent company, World Trade Center's parent company, is the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership. They work in the city and the county of St. Louis, and they can help with those kinds of things and some financing loans and that kind of thing. And every county has economic development departments typically that can help. So if you're doing any kind of a large expansion, it's always good to contact your local economic development entity and see if there's any support that they can give you financially. So, okay, let's see. I think, Dave, I was going to go to you next. We'll keep it on the Missouri side of the river. What are some resources that you've used? I think you've used a lot of the ones that were mentioned already, but
yeah, but since we're in the food industry, we also fall under the agriculture department. sort of hierarchy. So we work with the Missouri Department of Agriculture. They've got an international business team. So they help with some of the documents that we use for our shipments, like certificate of free sale, health and sanitary certificate. It's a free service, which is great. Some states you have to pay for those documents, but we provide those with every shipment that we do. We also work with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the USDA. The USDA has a branch called the Foreign Agricultural Service, or FAS, and that's a structure that's sort of parallel to the U.S. Commercial Service. In almost every embassy and consulate around the world, there's an ag attaché or an agriculture person, and their job is to facilitate business for U.S. companies. So, like some of the markets that we've gone into, like China or the Philippines, we do a lot of networking with the USDA people in those countries. Get to know them. They can help introduce. They've helped introduce us to distributors and retailers. They'll refer companies to us who are looking for American products. So they're a tremendous asset. And it's for a U.S. company. All their services are free of charge. We also work with Food Export Midwest, which is sort of an association of state agriculture departments. They get funding, market access development funding from USDA on an annual basis. And then like Thorstein was talking about applying for grants, we can apply for grant money. We basically every year we apply for a marketing budget with Food Export. We tell it, we have a marketing plan for each country that we want to focus on. And then we can get reimbursement for trade shows, for sending samples, for advertising with a partner, doing displays, doing product sampling. They've got a whole list of things, printing catalogs. We can get 50% reimbursement for a lot of those activities. So that's been a huge help to us. And with trade shows, like they'll pay for half of the trade show and pay for half of the hotel and airfare.
So those are similar to the STEP grants then. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when I first started getting into export, I was talking to Larry Dill, who I met through the World Trade Center. And I remember telling Larry, he was, explaining all these different services and resources that were available. And I told Larry, I want to be your poster boy for using these resources.
That's great. And did you become so? I guess you did. Sounds like
I think so.
Good.
That's why I'm here today.
Right. Well, I know when we were doing the run through, both you and Thorstein said, well, the first place we went was World Trade Center. So shameless plug. But honestly, I do tell people also when I'm making presentations, these resources can be overwhelming. Like, how do you even know, who's doing what and whatever. So I would say, look, just remember to reach out to us, because that's really one of the biggest functions that I do in my role, is to listen to what the need is, what the particular, what stage are you at? What is it that you need? And I can make referrals to most of these. So I think it may be a plug, but it's also just a way to simplify things. One of the things you pointed out that I did want to highlight as well is that you said they can make introductions for you, and a lot of the resources that Thorstein mentioned as well. And you can imagine that if you tried to reach out cold to somebody from another country, they're going to, if you get an inquiry from another country, you're going to not know whether it's legitimate or whatever. But if you've got a state entity saying, we have a company who is interested in, talking with you, then that's going to be much more likely to get through and help you to make those connections. So that's another thing another resource that's available. So
yeah, the Commerce Department, U.S. Commercial Service, has what they call a gold key service. So you can, if you want to enter a new market like Mexico, for example, you can contract with them. You pay them a fee. It used to be $700. Now it may be $1,000 or something, but you can.
I think it's under that.
You can pay them a fee. They'll, if you tell them about what your product is, they'll do a distributor search and you can make a trip into that market and they'll have a bunch of meetings and appointments lined up for you with people that
Yeah.
they've already validated. So, I mean, that's
And the step funds can cover a portion of those fees too. So
One thing I would like to add to
Okay.
going
Yeah.
on trade missions with the Missouri Department of Economic Development and also World Trade Center meetings were set up for me with very high level people in all the different companies, people I would not be able to meet with or get in touch with otherwise. So that's those some of the most valuable parts of going on trade missions.
Mhm. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think from the outside, it might look like it's a glorified vacation, right, that you can write off. But, and I haven't been on a World Trade Center trade mission yet, but from everything I can see, it's a lot of work and it's, a lot of business gets done. So they're very worthwhile doing. Now we're getting a little low on time. Karen, I want to give you a chance to speak. And then audience, if you've got any questions, you can put them in the Q&A portion, and then we will get to those in just a few minutes. Karen, you're on the Illinois side. What kind of resources have you taken advantage of?
A lot of the same resources that Torstein and Dave have taken advantage of, the trade.gov, the U.S. Commercial Services. Those are two big ones that have helped me out with certain things. The Illinois Department of Commerce has helped me out with a few things. But I think the biggest partner that I've had is I've had a great relationship with the SBDC, which is the Small Business Development Center at SIUE. My rep has been Sylvia Torres Bowman for, like I said, it's been 10 years that I've been working with them, and they have been instrumental in so many things. There's so many things that have come up, whether it's national, type stuff, challenges that I'm having, or I need to do research on this, or if it's international type stuff that I'm trying to do, they've been instrumental. They've helped me with doing an Export Now program, and I know that the World Trade Center has their comparable one as well. Trade shows are on my to-do list for 2024 and into 2025 for Canada. Obviously, that is a big one for us. I've taken advantage of multiple webinars and roundtables that they've put on. The STEP grants did help me with doing website globalization and translations for my website that are in the .mx extension and the .ca extension. .ca is obviously for Canada, and the .mx is obviously for Mexico. So they've definitely helped me out with that. And like the trade.gov, the Illinois Trade. The Illinois Trade Division, they have counterparts in Canada that they've put me in contact with to help out with other businesses and distributorship relationships like that too. So those are really the big one. There is a Southwest Illinois Trade Council also that I am a part of here, which is also kind of partnered with the ITC at SIUE. And I also kind of want to give a shout out because it was in the chat as well. Enterprise Bank is who I bank with as well and have for many, many years. And with them being a very large presence in St. Louis, they've got a lot of resources that they can help out with too. That's
great. Yeah, banks are a great resource for domestic and international. As we always encourage people to develop a relationship with your banker. They can support you in a lot of ways. You mentioned the SBDC. We work closely with Sylvia too, who's based at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. She's the international director there. Here on the Missouri side, the SBDC is sort of it's separated out, and but they're a good partner of us. We often work with them for companies that are brand new to export because they've got some great plans for helping walk through the export planning process. And that Export Now workshop that you talked about is really kind of like an accelerator for export planning, right?
Yes. Yes.
Great.
And just one more resource. We are ISO 9001 certified, and it was a big process. And Missouri Enterprise. Missouri Enterprise was the organization that helped us become ISO 9001 certified. They walked us through the process, so that's a good resource. So.
Yeah, I see that we've got a representative from Missouri Enterprise listening, and he mentioned that. And yeah, Missouri Enterprise is a great partner. They work with all kinds of manufacturers. They can help with a tremendous amount of different things, and they're not completely free, but their ROI always works out, right? They always, whatever money it costs to work with them, it's going to pay off because they're experts in a whole bunch of things related to manufacturing, and they're actually the state department of a national, the National Institute of Standards and Technologies, NIST. And NIST is actually a funder of World Trade Center too. So they help support the work that we do to grow the exports in the region. So, okay, so very good. Thank you, everybody. That was, I think we've pretty much gone through all of the main topics that I wanted to hit today. I don't see any other questions in the Q&A. So I just want to toss one out here, and then we're going to wrap up just a few minutes before the hour. It's come up a little bit in some of the things that you said, especially in the challenge section, but the trade wars, has that affected you? How did that affect your business? Karen, do you want to start?
The trade wars affected a little bit, and it's only we're USA made, so all of our products are made in the USA. So it didn't really affect it immediately with what we're doing day to day. But we do buy machinery from overseas, and the machinery that we have bought from overseas, the duty fees that you're paying on the import of that machinery here, it went up to like 40% or something like that. It was astronomical. So that has a detriment on your bottom line. But that just means your pricing has to go up just a little bit to compensate for that. So there's always a solution to every problem that's out there.
Okay, thanks. And Dave, just briefly, we've got like a minute for each of you, I guess.
Yeah, so we felt it in the China market when the U.S. raised tariffs on products coming in from China. China retaliated, especially in the agricultural sector, and a lot of the products that we were selling, overnight got a 25% increase in tariff. So that priced a lot of our products out of the market. And the thing about the trade war is it's sort of it's like a blunt object for foreign policy. It's because it's not the government that pays this. It's the small businesses like the three panelists today, that feel the effects of this.
Right. Okay, thank you. And Torsten. Yeah, sorry, I'm saying your name differently every time. Torsten.
So we use carbon steel in almost all our nitrogen generators to make pressure vessels. And a couple of years back, we saw the prices were going through the roof. Within 1 year, it went up between 30 and 40%. So yeah, it has had a huge impact on what we're doing. So hopefully, when it seems to have stabilized lately here, the steel prices, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. Okay, well, given all those headwinds, I know I asked you all this yesterday, but given those headwinds, do you still feel like it's worthwhile to do the exporting? Is that something that you still feel is worthwhile?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. And again, some years it's been more than 50% of our revenue, so it will be hard. And last year might have been between 20 and 25%. So it's a significant part of what we do. So we can help you grow your export. Just get in touch with us. We'll see how we can help you.
The new markets and the educational side of that, doing something new is always valuable, not only for you, but it's valuable for your business.
I think I have the best job in the world. I get to travel the world and talk to people about food.
Sounds pretty good. Yeah, and as you all mentioned, I mean, a lot of times it helps diversify your business as well. Like, I mean, the pandemic was an unusual thing, but typically down cycles in the economy don't happen all over the globe at the same time. So like I know during the 2008, the Great Recession, there were companies that would not have made it through if they didn't have international sales. So
yeah, and getting to know people all around the world too. It's been amazing just to how nice everybody is, and going out and having dinners with them or just socializing with them. Many many countries, they need to know you, get to know you before they're going to do business with you. So get used to that part. But just
Very
the
good
friendship
point.
you get is really nice.
That part's very rewarding, personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And Torstein, I know you mentioned that well, both of you, actually, all three of you have received a new number of awards, right? So those are more than just a nice little item to put on your shelf. There was a particular thing, Torstein, that you had said, and if you want to just end with that, that would be a good point to make.
Yeah, so getting all of these awards, it shows that you're a legitimate company and that corporations, they trust you and want to do business with you. And again, what it ended up for us was English Van thought highly of us and really enjoyed products and services we provided. And having these awards probably helped us be acquired by English Van too. So for us, it's meant a lot.
Great. Well, thank you all very much. And I don't know, Annie was having a little bit of technical issues, so I'm going to try to share my screen here for the last part of this. We have, let me make sure I've got this going here. Okay. So our Engage in Trade series continues in January. We're going to be having a global risk outlook. We don't have the date finalized, but it's likely to be towards the end of January. And if you see on this slide at the bottom, World Trade Center -stl.com, if you go to our website, scroll down to the bottom of the page on the right, there is a place for you to add yourself to our email list, and you'll receive invitations for events. And then we do have an evaluation. This is supposed to advance. Hold on one second here. Let me go to the next slide. Okay, now this is what was happening before here. There's an evaluation that we would like you to fill out. There it is.
It shows up in the chat.
Okay, then Annie's doing it. Thank you, Annie. But it should be in the chat. If you all participants wouldn't mind completing that evaluation and it includes some ideas for topics for future Engage in Trade series. We always like to know what people want to know about, and just very, very inspiring. Thank you all for you panelists for your participation. And I wish everybody a happy and healthy holiday season. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day. Happy holidays.
You too.